To continue on the issue of Venezuela, has anyone from our office even visited Leopoldo Lopez, who is behind bars in a military prison? Will the U.S. accept the Venezuelan request to put an ambassador in D.C., and if so, why? Secretary Kerry is now hiding behind the proposed UNASUR talks to keep from acting. So, Madam Secretary, what has been your excuse for the past 2 months for not acting before this false negotiation sham? Why can the administration not issue an executive order today on Venezuela to hold human rights violators accountable? And I wanted to bring to your attention, I'm sure that you have already seen it, that the statements made by Nicolás Maduro, the supposed president of Venezuela, who won by fraud, he says that he does not need to negotiate. And these are his quotes. There's no negotiations in Venezuela. I will not participate in one. He says, I don't have anything to negotiate with anyone about, and I will not negotiate the socialist revolution. And the countries that are pushing this sham of negotiations are countries that have remained totally silent or else complicit in the murderous rage of Nicolás Maduro. Brazil has not supported any of the student-led protests, is siding with Maduro. Colombia, silence. Ecuador, silence or siding with Maduro. So these are the countries that are leading the negotiations, and they have already taken their position in favor of Maduro and have voted that way with him in the OAS. And these are the leaders of the negotiations, and these are his quotes from today, Nicolás Maduro. So now we're saying we can't push because we've got these negotiations. They're false. Only one group of the opposition is for these negotiations. The vast majority are not for it because they know Maduro says, I don't need to negotiate with anyone. And yet, so I ask you, have we visited Leopoldo Lopez? If not, why not? Are we going to accept a Venezuelan ambassador in D.C.? Why would we? And why don't we put in the executive order, as we have done in Russia, the folks who have violated the human rights of folks in Ukraine? We've barred them from entry into the United States. We've frozen their accounts. We've blocked their properties. The president has done so. He's taken action in South Sudan as recently as just a few days ago. Why are the Venezuelan people not deserving of this help from the United States?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me start out and take these sort of in order. We've made very clear that we do not believe Leopoldo Lopez should be in prison. We believe he should be released. We'll continue to make that assertion.
Have we visited him? Have we made any attempt to visit him?
We have not visited him.
Do you consider him a political prisoner or a common criminal?
Well, we certainly don't believe that he should be in prison. I do think that he is being penalized for peaceful protest, and if they have charges against him, which they've now finally brought at the end of the 45-day period, I don't see any reason why he should not be allowed out of prison, frankly, to continue peaceful work.
Have you put out a statement of support for Leopoldo Lopez, or calling for, are we going to send anyone from our embassy to visit him? Well, what a strong statement that would make, because as you know, he's not going to be the only one who's going to be held in jail. If Maduro sees that the U.S. does nothing when somebody is brought up on trumped-up charges, Maria Corina Machado is next, and so will other leaders.
And 2 mayors have already been relieved of their position and charged with crimes. So,
and we did what?
And we will continue to speak out in opposition to those kinds of actions. I think it unlikely we would be allowed to visit Leopoldo Lopez or have...
We don't know if we don't try.
I understand that, but we've been very clear about our opposition to the repressive tactics that this government has used against people trying to conduct their job as mayor or peacefully protest, and we will continue to be strongly on the side of peaceful
We have
protest.
visited Alan Gross. We regularly visit Alan Gross in prison, and those are trumped-up charges. Leopoldo
we do,
Lopez,
ma'am.
as you stated, are trumped-up charges. He's a political prisoner. We should send a message by visiting him.
I appreciate that perspective. We are able to see Alan Gross because he's an American citizen, and we have that right under the Vienna Convention. But let me just go through some of the other items. You talked about the proposal to put a Venezuelan ambassador in the United States. We feel very, very strongly that this is not about the bilateral relationship between the United States and Venezuela, and therefore we are not taking action to allow a Venezuelan ambassador in the United States yet, because we think the action needs to be in Venezuela, with Venezuelans talking to each other and our doing everything we can to facilitate that, not to allow the distraction of charges against us or making this about the United States and our bilateral relationship.
We only have 30 seconds left.
Sorry.
What about the executive order? We've acted in other countries. Are the Venezuelan people not deserving of having their violators held accountable?
They surely are, ma'am, and that's one of the reasons why, as the Secretary and I have both said, we are holding in abeyance implementation of any restrictions, be they visa sanctions or revocations or further sanctions, which we believe we have the authority to take, while we see, in support of the opposition, whether these conversations are going to go
But these
anywhere.
conversations, you will agree, are just brand new. That's the new excuse. So that's why Secretary Kerry, I know my time is off, so I won't belabor the point, but that's the new excuse. The protests have been going on for 2 months while the administration remains silent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.